2 men and 3 women participated in a secret medical experiment in the middle of the desert. As long as they drank a glass of water every day, they would receive a large sum of money after 8 days. After drinking the water, an Asian woman suddenly started coughing violently, scaring the rest of them. They were afraid that the water contained some kind of deadly virus, but in the monitoring room next door, the test results showed that she was completely normal. Although this time it was just a scare, what they didn't know was that 8 days later, only one person was left alive in the entire base. What was the cause of the mysterious deaths? The story begins somewhere in the Sahara Desert. The experiment led by Rachel will be conducted in secret. In addition to the staff, there are also some participants who came from far away. This place is completely isolated with no internet or signal. Their phones and tablets were all confiscated. Rachel saw a woman walking down from the helicopter. She was extremely surprised. It was Maggie, the one who had put her father in jail. Rachel immediately went to the base manager Lauren to argue, but the other party said that Maggie had discovered the source of the algae water. Her only condition was to participate in the next experiment. The company was forced to accept her request. When Rachel and Maggie almost argued in the cafeteria, a desert scorpion crawled onto Maggie's shoe. Adam, who was standing nearby, saw this and immediately told her not to move. He took a stick and walked over to brush the scorpion away. Everyone saw that he did not kill the scorpion. Instead, he dropped it into the cup, which made everyone wonder. Adam explained that the desert was the scorpion's territory. Moreover, it had never attacked humans. It was impossible to kill it immediately just because it felt threatened. The target of this secret research was a type of algae. It was also Rachel's father's research project. It has now been successfully tested on fish and mammals, and this time they recruited 5 people to participate in the trial. The goal was to ensure it was safe for human use. Dr. Liam had fitted them with Bluetooth hemodynamic monitors, which continuously monitored their blood pressure, blood oxygen levels, and heart rate. The dosage would start at the lowest level and gradually increase. 2 men and 3 women were all in it for the attractive remuneration. But when they saw the ordinary glass of water in front of them, they began to wonder why they had to pay so much to drink it. Could there be some mysterious virus in the water? Were they being turned into guinea pigs for experiments? Keiko told them not to worry. She had drunk much scarier things in pharmaceutical trials and was still alive and well. But right after drinking it, Keiko suddenly convulsed and collapsed. It turned out she was just teasing everyone. She even mocked those who were scared for not having a sense of humor. Rachel was angry and pulled her aside. "If you do that again, I will make you wish it were true." At night, a sandstorm arose in the desert. All the staff on the ground retreated to the shelter. Participants began to chat. They shared their past and encouraged each other. As long as they endured for another 7 days, they would receive a large sum of money to return home. Suddenly, a figure appeared on the skylight above. Everyone panicked and immediately pressed the alarm to notify the staff. Adam took Jamal outside to check. They found an unconscious man lying in the sand. The man was taken to the medical room for treatment. Meanwhile, Lauren put the satellite phone, the only way to contact the outside world, into the microwave. She suspected that someone had leaked information about Project. This place was not supposed to be known to anyone, but suddenly, a man appeared. "Do you think this is just a coincidence? She meant someone leaked this location? I will not let anyone ruin this experiment. No one is allowed to contact the outside world until the company comes to take over 8 days later. Is everyone clear?" At the same time, the unconscious man began to wake up. He found himself tied to the hospital bed. When he struggled to get the surgical knife beside him, Adam, who was guarding outside, told him to put it down. The man identified himself as Michael. He said he was caught in a sandstorm while on a plane. The accident caused the plane to crash in this area, and only he survived. Michael did not have any documents to prove his identity. They suspected that he might be a spy from a rival company, pretending to be pitiful to blend in, sneaking into the base to steal experimental data. But if what Michael said was true, the rescue team would definitely find their way here through the plane's black box positioning system. By then, their secret medical experiment would definitely be exposed. Therefore, whether it was to verify Michael's words or to turn off the black box's positioning, they had to find the crashed plane. Jessica and Adam got in the car. Despite the sandstorm, they set off, following the direction Michael had pointed, and indeed found a plane buried under the sand. But when Jessica pushed the window open, she discovered a severely burned face. It seemed to be the pilot of this plane. There was still a flare left around his neck. Jessica immediately confirmed that it was Michael's fault. This was not an accident, but an attack on the experimental base. Due to the great distance beyond the radio range, they could not immediately report to the base. While they were on the way back, another incident happened to Mike. He pretended to go to the bathroom and stepped out under Jamal's supervision. Then, he pretended to bend down to tie his shoelaces. Facing Jamal's vigilance, he only revealed a meaningful look. It was not until the next morning that Jessica and Adam finally contacted the base via radio. radio. They reported that Michael had shot Pilot. After receiving the news, everyone immediately rushed to the medical room, but Michael had disappeared. Jamal, who was responsible for keeping him, also lost contact. Everyone had to gather all the staff in the base. They divided up to search for the two people's whereabouts. But the first thing they discovered was Lauren, who got up early to practice yoga, was dead in the desert. Her head had been severed. Only a headless corpse remained. Meanwhile, Jessica's group had just returned to the base. They discovered Jamal's body in an iron barrel. Everyone immediately conducted a search of the entire base. Not long after, they found Michael in the basement. He was still holding Jamal's weapon in his hand. Michael tried to explain that he had only gone to the bathroom last night. When he returned, Jamal was gone. There was blood on the ground and a gun left behind. He also denied killing the pilot, but no one believed Michael. Everyone believed that he forced the pilot to fly straight and land here, then used a flare gun to kill him. Who sent him here? Why did he take Amita's head? I don't know what you're talking about. Michael said he only took the gun to defend himself because people were threatening him. The car didn't have any keys. He went into the basement just to save his life. I don't care what you guys are doing here. I won't tell anyone. Liam pulled Rachel out. He thought Michael was more suspicious. He knew what happened at Hole 6 before. This kind of slander was the same script. Kill someone and make it look like someone else did it. As the two were trying to reason, a gunshot rang out from inside the tent. Turning around, Michael was shot in the chest, falling in a pool of blood. Who fired the shot? When Rachel asked who shot Michael, none of the people present answered. Everyone remained silent. Finally, Adam explained to her, "It doesn't matter who did it. We are in Beirut, Darwin. There is no law here, only justice." When they thought they had killed the killer to avenge their comrades, they didn't know that Michael wasn't lying. That day, when the plane crashed in a sandstorm, the pilot found that the cabin door was blocked by sand. She tried to use a flare gun to break the glass, but the glass was too high quality. The flare couldn't penetrate. It bounced back and shot her in the neck. At night, when Maggie checked Jamal's body, she found another upside-down symbol on his chest. This was exactly the same method she had used to frame Arthur at the 6th hole before. That meant that in this base, there was someone who knew the past and was showing it off. At this moment, the woman had just reached into her tool bag when she suddenly felt a sharp pain. Someone had put a poisonous scorpion in her bag. Ella saw the glass box where the scorpion had been locked. Only then did she realize that she was the murderer's next target. In just one day, 3 people had died in this desert bunker. But after losing their satellite phones, they had no way to contact the outside world. They could only wait 7 days for the company to send someone to pick them up. The algae drinking experiment continued on them. Suddenly, the doctor received a distress call from Ella. When they learned that she had been stung by a scorpion, everyone did not panic. Although they were deep in the Sahara Desert, the medical kit had an antidote serum. But when Liam was about to inject the drugs, he found that all the serum was empty. Someone had punched a hole in the bottom of the vial. He had checked them last night. Everything was still intact. It was clearly a deliberate plan. Fortunately, the base had a backup plan. They could get to the nearest hospital in less than an hour by taking the helicopter outside and inject the antidote. But as pilot John started the helicopter, the rotor blades started spinning more and more slowly. The red lights on the dashboard flashed one after another. John checked the engine and cursed. Someone had damaged the turbine blades. Adam remembered that there was a residential area in the desert canyon. There might be an antidote there. As they prepared to drive the Jeep to the canyon, Maggie suddenly realized something was wrong. Whoever sabotaged the helicopter knew they would have to use the Jeep to avoid having a bomb on car. Adam chased everyone out and checked it himself, but after starting it, it turned out to be a false alarm. After John drove Ella away, Maggie expressed her suspicions. There was a killer infiltrating the base to kill them. As the security officer, Adam also agreed to stop the experiment. The rest of the people would take turns getting in the car to meet John in the canyon. In theory, Ella had about 5 hours before the poison took effect. The only thing she could do now was calm down, keep the pulse low to slow down the flow of blood. But after an hour of driving, the car ran out of fuel. John quickly reassured Ella not to worry. The reserve fuel in the car was enough for them to drive to America. But when he opened the tank cap to fill up, not a drop of fuel came out. All the fuel tanks were replaced with sand. He checked one tank after another. All were empty, not a drop of fuel. John used the walkie-talkie to contact Adam at the base, hoping he could drive to refuel. He also burned the Jeep tires to make a signal. But the hidden killer had anticipated this. All the fuel in the base was replaced with sand. Now, they were completely stranded in the desert. Maggie went to Rachel and told her about the symbol on the body. It was exactly like what happened at Hole 6. She believed it was a message from Arthur's people. The only survivors at the pole that day were herself and Arthur. Now, Arthur was dead, but it was possible that there were still people working for him. At first, she suspected Michael, but now it could be anyone. In the evening, John carried Ella's body back to the base. He was a little angry. Liam was in charge of preserving the equipment. Everyone quickly pulled him out. Liam felt wronged. If we were talking about Ella's death, there were many suspects besides him. Adam was the scorpion breeder. Liam was in charge of medicine. He was Ella's boyfriend. John was also a suspect. He was the only one who understood the structure of the plane the best. If anyone could sabotage it, it was him. When the two of them got into a fight again, Miko quietly entered the lab and plugged a USB into the computer. On this side, Rachel immediately stopped the fight. She believed that this was what Killer wanted to see. He was trying to divide them from within. They had to unite. The killer was among us, or one of the test subjects. Liam thought Maggie was the biggest suspect. Maybe blaming me was also part of her plan. To prevent further incidents, Adam decided to lock down the base. He confiscated everyone's access cards and asked them to stay in their rooms. Only John's access card was missing. He said he would come back to find it. The scene changed to 2 years ago, the day Arthur entered prison. On the first day, he was confronted by the prison boss's underlings. Arthur walked straight to him with a tray of food. "My name is Professor Arthur White. I am a scientist. I don't want to cause trouble. I just want to focus on my work. Here I just want to keep quiet." But that very night, Arthur was imprisoned and even had a kettle of water boiling on his hand. No matter who he was in the outside world, he had to bow his head and live in prison. Next to Arthur, a hallucination of Maggie appeared. She mocked him that he used to think the whole world revolved around him. But now no one cared if he lived or died. After that, Arthur began to write to his daughter every day, explaining that he had been harmed. But all the letters were like stones sinking to the bottom of the sea. One day, Arthur unexpectedly received a letter. He thought it was a reply from his daughter, but when he opened it, he was completely surprised. The sender was a fan of his. That person believed that he was a good person. Good people like them were always harmed by others. The letter was signed with 2 X's. That night, while patrolling the lab, Adam picked up John's access card on the floor. He discovered that John had broken curfew and left the room. John explained that he was so upset about his girlfriend's death that he couldn't sleep. Adam took him on patrol with him, but they didn't know that all the drinking water in the warehouse had been drained. The next morning, everyone discovered that all the water in the warehouse had been drained. Yesterday, all access cards were confiscated and everyone was locked in their rooms. The only one who could move freely was Adam, the person in charge of patrolling. Adam frowned at John. He didn't reveal that John had left the room last night. Someone from the company would come to pick them up in 5 days. During that time, how could they survive in this desert? John suggested using condensed water from the air conditioner. This water will flow into the tank in the bathroom. If used sparingly, they can sustain everyone's life. Rachel thinks that the condensed water can be drunk, but if the test subjects use it, she is worried that it will affect the results of the research. Maggie comes up with a way. There are canned food in the food storage with fruit juice. They can drink that too. While they are arguing, John discovers that a ventilation pipe has been opened by someone. It seems that the killer is not someone inside the base, but someone outside. John controls the drone, scans a radius of several kilometers for the killer, but finds no trace. Adam sneaks into John's room to search. Under his mattress, he finds a bloody dagger. Tests show that it is Jamal and Lauren's blood. Adam takes the dagger and goes straight to John. The two have been close friends for many years. He believes that John has been framed. They promised each other that they would do everything they could to survive and leave this place. At this time, Miko discovered that his bath water was suddenly stopped. Some of the girls participating in the experiment immediately protested. Before, they were promised that they could bathe once a day. Now they broke their promise like that, so they decided to go on strike during the experiment. If they could not bathe, they would not continue to drink the seaweed water. In order for the project to continue, Maggie stood up to persuade them. If only one person went on strike, none of them would receive any money in 5 days. Because of the large amount of money, they had no choice but to follow and continue drinking the seaweed water. But while drinking, the young man kept glancing at Miko. After the observation ended, he went to Adam and said something. Adam immediately went to the shelter and restrained Miko. He asked to check all of her phones and computers. Miko protested, citing privacy, but Adam held a knife to her neck. Turned out that the murderer was hiding in the group last night. Rachel and Liam wanted to intervene, but were stopped. If Miko was really a murderer, then mercy would only put everyone in danger. Adam's words silenced the group. They could only watch as Miko was dragged into the underground bunker. After everyone left, Maggie picked up Miko's phone. She secretly checked text message history because she always suspected that the murderer in the base was Arthur's man. Going back a few years, Arthur in prison had more and more exchanges with his fans. The important thing is not to be too hasty. Collect everything. Before making a move, find a double. Then, make them terrified and terrified. Sow chaos and let paranoia spread. Use a mysterious signal to keep their minds on edge. Stay 3 steps ahead. They will walk into your trap. Fear makes people stupid. They will start killing for you. The best disguise is to make yourself a victim. And when the time comes, don't hesitate to switch switch sides, you can fool everyone in a snap of your fingers. Actually, all of this wasn't Arthur's doing, it was what Maggie did in the first season at Pole 6, and blamed him. So, Arthur hopes that his fans will use Maggie's tricks to avenge him. Meanwhile, the prison leader does not spare Arthur. He gives him a dagger and orders him to kill his cellmate, and that dagger is the one that Adam found under John's mattress. Maggie finds a call record with Takeshi Kobayashi on Miko's phone. His son, Aki, died at Pole 6, and it was Maggie who killed him. Miko was tortured by Adam but still refused to say anything until Maggie mentioned that she used to love Aki and knew that it was exactly midnight. Miko finally admitted that she was a commercial spy. Takeshi Kobayashi hired her to bring in a USB. She did not know what was inside. She only knew that at exactly 12 o'clock tonight, the program inside would automatically activate, and then her account will receive $1 million when Miko shows a devilish smile. The firewall system of the laboratory in the base is immediately broken from the outside. A ransomware appears on the computer screen. They must enter the password within 24 hours. Otherwise, all the experimental data will be deleted forever. But now the base has lost contact with the outside world. Where can they get the money to pay? Just when everyone is in chaos, a female volunteer sneaks out to take a bath. They plan to take advantage of the time when no one is paying attention to install a faucet to take a bath. Susan, the oldest, takes off her clothes and steps into the bathroom. But as soon as she turns on the faucet, a strong electric current suddenly hits. So there is another body in the freezer. Through investigation, they find that the electrical wiring in the bathroom has been tampered with. The current has passed through the condensed water, causing an electric shock. Immediately after that, the chain of tragedies continues. The participants in the experiment suddenly began to vomit violently. They also had high fevers. Liam checked them and found that their white blood cell counts were high. It was obvious that they had food poisoning, but they all ate the same food. The only difference was the algae water in the experiment. Rachel found that the person in charge of the algae water had disappeared. After a while of searching, she finally found him in the freezer. He appeared too. The symptoms of poisoning were exactly the same as the participants in the experiment. At first, they thought that Horst was poisoned because he was too thirsty and drank the algae water prepared for the participants. But unexpectedly, he said that he drank the condensate from the cooling system that the girls used to bathe in. It was not until they discovered Lauren's decomposing head in the condensate tank that they understood the cause of the poisoning. The man fished out a pale white head from the tank. It was this that caused the food poisoning in the participants. Everyone began to argue about who the culprit was. Dr. Liam wondered why every time Rachel and Maggie were together, someone was beheaded. Despite Rachel's objections, he revealed the events that had happened at the 6th hole and the offshore drilling platform. This algae water experiment was actually a continuation of the previous research. The previous 2 scientific missions had almost everyone killed. Only Maggie and Rachel were the 2 who survived. Rachel explained that she was not present during the 6th hole incident, but someone was still beheaded. All eyes turned to Maggie. They suspected her of being the murderer. Maggie tried to defend herself, but everyone decided that it was better to kill by mistake than to let her go and planned to arrest her. Maggie did not want to be caught, but she was no match for Adam and the others. They tied her to the base of the solar panel. This was the Sahara Desert, with no water or food. She could barely survive the night. John took Amita's head to the freezer and put it back with her body. Adam poured out all the remaining water in the tank and disinfected the entire area. Meanwhile, at the base, Horst, who had food poisoning, refused medical treatment. He no longer trusted anyone in the base. He wanted to go to the desert to find a drought-resistant salt plant. It had anti-inflammatory, antipyretic, and detoxifying effects. Despite the objections of everyone in the base, he went deep into the desert alone. Because of food poisoning, his body had lost a large amount of water. They hadn't gone far when the ghosts began to appear. The petals were the same color as in the book. Horst excitedly ran towards them, but when he was about to pick the flowers and eat them, he was thrown into the void. He looked around and saw only the bare desert. Horst sighed and fell down, considering this place the end of his life. Without a satellite phone, Rachel and the others could only guess the password to the ransomware, but after trying many times, they still failed. At night, the desert temperature had dropped below freezing. Maggie shivered from the cold. Suddenly, an image of Arthur's trial appeared in her mind. She had seen Kobayashi in court. He believed that when a person died violently, their soul would wander the earth as a ghost. Until they received justice, the ransomware mastermind Keiko was the one who had to come. Apparently, Kobayashi believed that the company was irrevocably responsible for his son's death and wanted to use this method to get revenge. At that time, the 2 of them had talked about a mathematical formula. Aki loved using it to decode passwords. Maggie woke up with a start. Suddenly, something occurred to her. She picked up a rock and started hitting the skylight. The people in the base ignored her. Finally, Rachel couldn't bear it. She brought out a warm coat and canned food. Maggie suddenly said that she might be able to decode the ransomware. Although Rachel didn't trust her, it was only 10 minutes to midnight. At that moment, her entire research would be ruined. Maggie was sent back to the lab to decode the password, but after 5 minutes of trying, she still couldn't decode it. She forced herself to remember every moment with Aki. Finally, she used the 4 Japanese characters on Aki's t-shirt to compare with keyboard, and in the last few seconds, she successfully decoded. But Adam still didn't believe her. He thought that Maggie might have known the password all along, just pretending to fool them and gain their trust. Then, he locked her in the basement, saying that he would release her when the rescue team arrived in 3 days. Locked in the basement, Maggie was thinking of a way out. Suddenly, she heard the buzzing of bees. Following the sound, she discovered a ventilation pipe. As it was 3 meters high, she could not reach it. In another development, Keiko woke up, used a scalpel to control Liam, then used a loudspeaker to call the test participants to the medical room. She frankly admitted her identity as a spy and the torture, saying that they would never receive the reward, then incited everyone to fight against the people in the base. They ambushed and attacked by surprise. Keiko wanted to kill Adam to avenge what he had done to her, but thanks to the prevention of her teammates, she did not pull the grass, but only stabbed him in the leg as a warning. While everyone was arguing, Rachel suddenly ran away. She also turned off power to the base. John thought that what they were doing was useless. The helicopter was broken, the truck was out of fuel, they could not leave the desert. But the boy suddenly said that when he searched for Keiko earlier, he found a gas can in the radiator. It was obvious that the killer had hidden it for himself. Adam took advantage of the moment when no one was paying attention and turned around to run away. But because his leg was injured, Keiko caught up with him as soon as he left the base gate. And in the end, she got her revenge. Keiko and her gang planned to lock everyone in the basement and drove away from the base by themselves. But the wires said that without electricity, they would have no fire control. That meant no condensate. If they wanted to leave, they would have to bring enough drinking water. So, they needed her help. After thinking it over, they decided to let Rachel help get the water. Liam and John were locked in the basement, but unexpectedly, just a moment after leaving the base, their jeep exploded. All 4 of them could not survive. So who was the real killer hiding in the dark? The 4 participants drove away from the base. They dreamed of a beautiful life in the future, but the man noticed that the engine had a problem, and it was getting slower and slower. At the base, Rachel looked at the direction of the exploded car. She was horrified to realize that they had taken the results of her research. Maggie went to the scene of the explosion to check. All 4 were burned to death. But what troubled her the most? Now, she and Rachel are the only ones left at the base. So who is the real killer? Time goes back to a day ago. Maggie was locked in the basement with Liam and John. When they learned that Keiko and her gang were planning to leave, they knew that if they didn't eat for 3 days, they wouldn't survive until the company sent someone. Maggie told them about the ventilation system where she saw the men. The 3 of them could get out by climbing over each other. She offered to be the one to go through the duct because she was smaller, but Liam didn't believe her at all. He thought that if Maggie got out, she wouldn't come back to save them. So they decided to let Liam go out first. But when he was halfway through, he touched something in the pipe. Unexpectedly, it was a beehive. John was crushed, screaming in pain, but his body was stuck, unable to move forward or backward. Liam was also stung by bees several times. He immediately ran away, ignoring his teammates. The bees were increasing in number. Maggie could not save her teammates. She could only hide in a small room to avoid the crazy bees. Time went back a few years. Arthur had a visitor in prison. It was the fan he had always been waiting for. That person was none other than Dr. Liam. Arthur held his hand tightly and whispered, "Now, I need you to take the next step. Find Maggie and make her suffer." At this time, Maggie heard that the bees had quieted down and opened the door. She found John dead, stuck in the pipe. Liam suddenly attacked from behind and knocked her down. "I am so sick of your lies, Maggie Michelle. It ends here." At this moment, John's body suddenly fell down, attracting Liam's attention. Maggie took the opportunity to escape into a small room. Liam saw her shoes right at the door. Just as he was about to rush in and kill her, Maggie suddenly appeared. She held a knife and stabbed him through the neck. But the story was not over yet. Find Maggie and make her suffer. Arthur's words confused Liam. He was just a colleague of Arthur's daughter. He did not know Maggie. He came here just to continue his research on algae water. Arthur then realized he had mistaken the person. Liam was not the fan he was waiting for. The scene returns to the desert testing base. After Rachel has filtered enough drinking water to survive, Keiko and her group prepare to leave. They look at Rachel, who is pregnant. They can't bear to leave her behind to die. But the other 3 all vote against taking her along. Who knows if she is the mysterious murderer? Even the kindest boy chooses to abstain. Keiko doesn't forget to ask Rachel to pack the algae sample. They can deliver it to the tenant and get an additional reward. Before leaving, they also pour gasoline all over the lab. The algae surface is also completely destroyed. After Keiko's group drives away, Rachel Rachel opens the basement door. She wants to find Liam for help, but she only sees his body in Maggie's hands. That makes her even more certain that Maggie is the murderer. The pregnant Rachel runs away from the basement, but just then, a loud explosion occurs. She rushes out and sees that not far away, Keiko's Jeep is on fire. They were dead, Rachel realized painfully. The only algae sample was also destroyed. Maggie went to the scene of the explosion to check. All four of them were burned to a crisp. Now, only she and Rachel were left alive at the base. So who was the real killer? Maybe it was because of the exhaustion of running. Rachel suddenly realized her water had broken. She rushed to the infirmary to find medicine. But then, Maggie returned. She told Rachel that Keiko and her gang were dead. That only made Rachel more convinced that she was the killer. Suddenly, Maggie asked Rachel whether the baby kicking in her stomach was on top or bottom. The woman woke up and found herself locked in a hot metal box. This box was called a desert mill thermos. Except for the top, all four sides were sealed with insulation. When the box was placed under the sun, the heat would be transferred to the ground, creating a terrible heat. Maggie was locked in there, so hot that she couldn't bear it. She remembered that the lock of the box was on top. She unbuckled her belt and raised her hand. She tried to use the belt buckle to pull the latch open. She couldn't see it. She could only rely on her feelings and only remember. She tried several times before she could hook it. Maggie opened the lock and immediately wanted to climb out, but there was a huge force pressing on the lid of the box. Where was Rachel's child? But the person outside didn't respond. The head, everything was a copy of the 6th Polar event. A great performance. So what does it have to do with you? At this moment, someone suddenly cut Maggie's belt. She angrily cursed like crazy. Fuck this game. I'm gonna die here anyway. Show me your stupid face. Who's the stupid one now? Flashback to a few hours ago. With Maggie's help, Rachel had a difficult time welcoming her baby. The two women, who had always been at odds with each other, sat down and talked calmly for the first time. Maggie frankly admitted that she had drowned her father, Arthur, because he had killed her husband and many other innocent people. In fact, Arthur was their common enemy. If he saw them working together, he would probably rise from his grave in anger. At this moment, a rustling sound came from the ceiling. It seemed that the heavens had not blocked anyone's path. The desert had finally received precious rain. Maggie quickly brought a basin and placed it up to direct the water. With enough water, they could survive until the company arrived in 2 days. In the medical room, Rachel was singing with her child in her arms. Suddenly, someone appeared behind her. After the rain, Maggie returned with water. She found that Rachel's head had been pierced by a spear. The child she was holding had also disappeared. Maggie pulled out the spear and immediately searched the base for the culprit and the child. She found many lines written in blood. It was all about the heat. Maggie followed the lines and walked out. Suddenly, she heard the cry of a child coming from the heat box. She went closer. Sure enough, it was Rachel's child. At that moment, someone injected her in the neck. She lost consciousness immediately. When she woke up, she found herself locked in the heat box. And the one who did this was Sean, who was dead. Maggie had clearly seen their charred bodies. Sean was one of the 4 experimenters who escaped. After leaving not far, he pretended to be a bad driver. Then he switched places with Keiko, who was holding a gun. But as soon as she got in the driver's seat, Sean immediately took out a submachine gun and shot all 3 of them dead. Then he used Horst's body to impersonate himself, then blew up the car to fake his death. Sean admitted that he was an admirer of Arthur. He came to take revenge on Maggie for him. Instead, he intended to leave her, leaving her to die of heat stroke. Maggie suddenly said that the scenario was not like that. He could not kill her. He had to do what she had done to Arthur. It was a safe case. Sean was suddenly stunned. Arthur had never told him this. Maggie burst out laughing. Arthur had lied to him, because in the Polar case number 6, Arthur had never killed anyone. Maggie was the one who killed everyone and blamed him. Time went back a few years. In Arthur's prison, Sean was a normal prison guard. He only started to pay attention to Arthur when he was imprisoned. When he heard that Arthur was convicted of a series of murders, he started to follow him. He opened all the letters Arthur sent to his daughter. He felt it was unfair for him. How could this world treat such a genius so badly? He began to worship Arthur. One day, Arthur had a visitor, Liam. Sean overheard their conversation. Find Maggie and make her suffer. Arthur originally wanted to convince the warden to let his men outside find Maggie for revenge, but Sean thought someone else had taken his job. I heard he hired a hitman to find a woman named Maggie. Was he chosen before me? Go die. On the day Arthur was transferred to another camp, Sean revealed his true identity. I know what you want me to do. But Arthur was rescued by the company halfway to continue researching seaweed. Sean thought he was dead. He took the knife he found in Arthur's room. Then he started his plan. He cornered the child of the person who selected the experimental subject, forcing him to let him replace someone else. Successfully joined the Desert Experimental Project. Then he recreated every step of the tragedy at Aurora 6. He was always 3 steps ahead. Fear makes people stupid. They will do everything for you. Nguyen Trong is best to be a victim. Sean said that he needed money to treat his son son's cancer, making everyone believe he was a harmless father. But Sean did not expect that the person he worshipped the most, Arthur, would be the one to deceive him. He opened the lid of the thermos box. Despite Arthur's voice echoing in his head, he still let Maggie go. 2 days later, when the company's convoy arrived at the base, it was dark, with the bodies of employees scattered everywhere. Sean was also dead with a knife in his eyes. They found Maggie hiding in the medical cabinet, nursing Rachel's daughter. The company manager wanted to blame everything on Maggie, but she handed them the backpack on her back. Inside was the only remaining seaweed sample. The movie ended here. Thank you for watching, goodbye, and see you again.